Welcome back for Module 3. If you remember from Module 2, Helsted and Co. Helsted and Co. is the law firm that we're using in this scenario throughout these 10 modules. Now, Helsted and Co. received a AI governance questionnaire from their largest client, which is Pemberton, and on that questionnaire had 5 questions. The first question was, do you have an AI policy? And we covered that in Module 2. Now, the second question is, who owns the AI risk? And this question is currently unanswered. And this is what we're going to address and close the gap in this module. Okay, so Priya, being the COLP from Helsted and Co. LLP, she's looking through these questions and she's happy that she's answered question 1. So from looking at question 2 with regards to who owns the AI risk, Priya decides to go and review the firm's existing IT and data governance matrix, just to see what AI responsibilities has been delegated to which individuals. Unfortunately, she found none. Now, as it stands, the IT director was responsible for the software procurement and the network security. The data protection officer was responsible for the GDPR compliance, but AI specific tasks like reviewing model hallucinations, approving new generative tools deployments, as well as conducting AI impact assessments. These were entirely unassigned. No one was allocated to these responsibilities. So, Priya recalled reading in the SRA thematic review, and what that is where the SRA went out and they visited 25 law firms and spoke to 36 individuals. Then they produce the report. I believe this is the summary of the report. I believe there's a more detailed report, but what they published on their website is the summary here. And one key point within this summary that I want to point out is that they stated that only one individual, so one COLP, out of the 36 that they possibly spoke to, was able to describe the difference between a notification and a report, which is basically their responsibilities. Now, a notification is something that must be reported to the SRA, and a report, based on its circumstances, may be reported, but it does allow Priya, as the COLP, some discretion. Now, from this line in itself is a bit concerning that you currently have law firms with people in these positions and they don't know what their role is. Now, this was done in December of last year to just show you how recent and up to date that information is. Okay, so Priya recalls the headline finding from the SRA's thematic review that only one COLP across the sample could outline all their responsibilities. The implication alarmed her because if, for whatever reason, a paralegal decides to use AI and it fabricated citations and they submitted it to court, the SRA regulator would ask her which individual was responsible for supervising the output. So, who was responsible for reviewing the model hallucinations? And that question will fall on the COLP. Now, without a documented RA, she has no answer for that SRA regulator. Now, very quickly, what RAI means is responsible, accountable, consulted, and informed. All right? Okay. So, quick note here. If a regulator asks who owns the AI risk and they receive the answer, we all do, that is not a sufficient answer for the SRA. Okay? Because shared knowledge is not assigned responsibility. Now, even more concerning, again, I touched on this in the previous 2 modules, but things like citations or AI generated information being submitted to court is actually a real thing. So I've got here this court case, and in summary, a law firm used ChatGPT to basically fabricate 18 citations, which were then submitted in court filings. The judgment did not attribute the failure of vaguely to the firm, It demanded to know which individual was responsible for supervising the output. Now, a firm without a documented AI governance structure will have no answer to this judge. And I believe that the firm was fined 89 or 90 million or something along those lines. And then on top of that, you've got reputation damage, etc., etc. So it's a serious thing in terms of having AI rolled out into the business. You have individuals using it to do their work, and you haven't got the proper reviewing of any hallucinations, the approving of any new tools, and conducting AI impact assessments. Okay, so let's analyze the gaps. All right, so we have four structural defects of AI governance. You have vacuum, so the role vacuum, the informal designation, incomplete RACI, and reporting loop absence. Okay, so those are the four different defects, and let's quickly go through them. So when it comes to role vacuum, what that means is that no role within the firm has been formally designated as accountable for AI governance. All right, you have the COLP oversees compliance generally throughout the firm, but AI is out of scope for any documented mandate. This means the firm has no mechanism for ISO 42 performance to surface to management. Next, informal designation. Someone, usually a tech forward partner, looks after AI matters in practice. All right. Now, that would, in this scenario, that would be a gentleman called Marcus Webb, who is the IT director for Halstead & Co. Now, this isn't formally documented. All right. So the standard requires the assignment to be communicated in a controlled document, not just held in a institutional memory. So not just a case that, okay, Marcus, yeah, he's part of AI and he's part of IT, or the head of IT, and AI does fall under technology in that sense. So yeah, Marcus looks after that. That doesn't meet the standard. Okay. Then you have incomplete RA. Now the firm has an RACI, but it hasn't been extended to AI tasks. Again, reviewing outputs, approving deployments, managing vendor AI clauses. These tasks exist operationally, but are entirely unassigned in any governance document. So again, if we go back to what I was mentioning about Marcus Webb, him being the head of IT, in people's mind, AI is part of technology, so Marcus looks after that. But as it's stated here, when it comes to the responsible, accountable, consulted, and informed control document, there is nothing that specifies which individuals, whether it's Marcus Webb or whoever else, actually reviews outputs, approve the deployments, manage the vendor AI clauses, and supervises the end users. End user in this case would be the paralegals and solicitors in terms of how they use the AI tools, and again, review their outputs before they're put together in a case and submitted to court. Now, the final defect is reporting loop absent. Now, what does that mean? So, even where there is a role that exists, there is no defined mechanism for AI performance data. So that's AI incidences or near misses, staff usage patterns to reach the management board. So without the feedback loop, the clause 5.3 section B structurally fails. So there isn't a loop where the top level gets an understanding in terms of any near misses or any actual incidences, and what is the usage of the AI tools? Is it being productive? What is the quality of the outputs, etc. Okay, so those are the four defects that needs to be filled in to close the gap, to close this gap. Right, so let's look at the ISO 42001-2023 clause 5.3. Let's look at that in plain English. Okay, so there's literally just 5 obligations for this clause. Okay, and we're just going to go through each one. So there's 2 key ones. So you have 3 of them that fall under shall. These are core requirements. All right, and then these 2 here implied, these are structural constraints. All right, so you've got 3 core requirements and 2 structural constraints. So if we click on the 3 core requirements, what does it say? Top management shall ensure that responsibilities and authorities for relevant roles are assigned. An informal understanding amongst partners does not satisfy this ISO requirement. It must be mapped to a specific named role. Okay. Next, top management shall ensure these responsibilities are communicated within the organization. The governance structure must be documented and accessible to the staff whose work it governs. And then you have top management shall assign the responsibility and authority for reporting on the performance of the AI management system to top management. This builds the mandate feedback loop. Okay, so now let's look at the 2 structural constraints now. All right, so no shared ownership. Clause 3.5 does not permit a shared ownership model where accountability is distributed across the partnership without a single coordinator. Shared knowledge is not an assigned responsibility. Then we have separation of duty. All right, so implicitly, the role accountable for governance should be distinct from the individuals who purely operate the AI systems, maintaining an objective control structure. So when it comes to Pemberton Capital's questionnaire, their AI governance questionnaire, which has a 30-day deadline, you have the question 2, which is who in your firm is responsible for AI governance and what is their formal mandate? Write a document that documents the responsible, accountable, consulted, informed mapping and a formal assignment. Halstead & Co. cannot answer this question. A hesitant or inconsistent answer to a major panel client, so their top client that brings in 620,000 a year in revenue, carries immense commercial risk. Okay, so let's look at the gaps that the SRA has identified. All right, so gap 1 is the COLP knows what AI tools are in use. In actual fact, based on their thematic review, they found that most COLPs could not outline their general responsibilities, much less govern the tools, the AI tools that could be used in the business, which they don't know exists. Gap 2, supervision obligations extend to AI outputs. Now, under the SRA's Principle 5, requires proper supervision of work produced. Now, the COLP signature accountability includes ensuring that supervision mechanisms exist for AI generated work, meaning a human in the loop with must be formally assigned. This is actually missing. That's the second gap. Third gap is client care and disclosure decisions. Now, where AI tools is used, the SRA expects firms to consider client disclosure, meaning letting your clients know where certain information that they're using or submitting to court or actually giving to the client is actually AI generated. Okay, the individual responsible for executing this decision must be identifiable in a governance matrix before a problem arises. So again, all these things needs to be in place before AI is rolled out within the organization, within the firm. All right. The final gap, so gap 4, is institutional panel procurement. All right. Large clients are crystalline the obligation through questionnaires, questioning who owns AI risk, forces law firms to move from abstract partnership sharing to a designated named individual. Okay, as we are growing in this world of AI, businesses are going to be asking other businesses that they're in B2B partnership with, what is their protocols they have in place, what is their systems, what is their mechanisms in terms of AI policies, who handles the risk, who's looking at any outputs, are you giving us any AI generated information? It's becoming a growing thing now where clients are asking businesses these AI governance questions. Okay, so let's start closing up the gap. Let's start closing the gap 2. And how that is done is a controlled, responsible, accountable, consulted, informed AI management system document. Okay, that's what closes gap 2. That is what, if we scroll right up here to the beginning, that is what's going to answer this question. Who owns the AI risk? Okay, all right, so let's look at this. So step 1, designate the AI governance lead, all right, the AGL. So this is the named role accountable to the ISO 42001, and in most mid-sized firms, this will be the COLP or a senior partner. The designation must be documented in a board or management resolution and cross-reference in the R. Now, quick note. So the AI governance lead is accountable for all the strategic AI governance tasks. They do not need to be responsible for the operational tasks like maintaining the AI, etc. Okay? Their main focus is on the AI governance tasks itself. Okay, so step 2, we got to map the AI tasks inventory. All right, so let's look at this. What firms need to do is identify every AI specific task the firm performs or should perform. All right, standard items are inefficient. These are AI specific. For example, AI system procurement approval, usage policy maintenance, impact assessment commissioning, fee earner training delivery, matter level output review and sign off, client disclosure decisions, vendor contracts, so that's AI clauses review, and incident reporting and management review. Okay, step 3, let's close step 2. So step 3, assign across 4 standard roles. So the 4 standard roles for a firm of this scale in this scenario, Halstead & Co, is an AI governance lead. They are strategically accountable for the AI strategy. You got the COLP / practice manager. So that's for the regulation, so the regulatory interface and the compliance check-in. Okay. You have the IT lead. In terms of this scenario, you've got Marcus Webb, and they're responsible for the system level operation as well as the vendor API management. Now, when it comes to the fee earners / supervisors, they are the ones actually using the tool. Okay, so they're the point of use accountability. So reviewing the actual LLM output. So each task is mapped in step 2, and one role is accountable. One or more are responsible and the others are consulted or informed. See, that makes up the RDI. Okay, accountable, responsible, consulted, or informed. So what they're saying is, out of these 4 roles, so these 4 standard roles, you have someone that's accountable, you have one or more people that's responsible, and you have the others that's either consulted or informed. We're actually going to look at our matrix table that kind of shows this a lot more clearly. Okay, step 4, build the reporting loop. Okay, so define a quarterly AI performance report within the RACI itself. This report is the mechanism that explicitly closes the clause 5.3 section B, which is reporting performance to top management. The report must cover AI systems in active use, incidences or near misses, output quality observations, training compliance, and supply chain changes. For example, when OpenAI introduces a new model, okay, that's a supply chain change. Okay, so that's step 4. Then we have step 5, which is issue and communicate. Now this is very important, because now this is all about ensuring that the business sees this information in terms of they are fully aware of who is responsible for what, who's responsible for what part of AI, who's accountable, who's consulted, and who's informed. So controlled documents under the ISO 42001 clause 7.5 must be version controlled, approved, distributed, and accessible. Circulate the RACI AI management system control document to all role holders with a read receipt mechanism. Okay, something that has to be in place where that document is distributed to everyone within the business. Okay, and there's a system to show that those individuals that's received it has read it. Okay, so as critical, I've put here the clause 5.3 mandates communication. The assignment is technically incomplete and fails audit until it has been demonstrated that the communication has been done to relevant staff within the business and they could prove that those members of staff has read the document. All right. Without being able to prove that, the audit fails for clause 5.3. Okay, so now let's look at the RACI matrix. All right. Now, what you have here, you have the 4 roles. So you've got the AI governance lead, you've got the COLP, you've got the IT lead, and you've got the fee earners. Okay. And here on the left, you have the tasks. So first task is AI usage policy maintenance. Now, the AI governance lead is accountable. Okay. Is accountable for the AI usage policy maintenance. The COLP, however, is responsible for that maintenance. IT lead is only consulted, and the fee earner using it is informed. So they're informed that yes, we are monitoring everyone's usage, etc. The IT lead is consulted to be made aware that there's a mechanism wherein we are capturing the usage of all the fee earners. That information has to get fed back to the LP, as he or she, in terms of this scenario, Priya, she's responsible for that AI usage policy maintenance and would have to report back to the AI governance lead, who is accountable for it. Okay, so I hope you can understand how this works. All right, so the next task is AI risk and impact assessment. Okay, now again, the AI governance lead is accountable for this, and the LP is responsible for this. Responsible ensuring that there's a mechanism that captures any incidences or NEN misses and is reported back to those that's accountable, which is the AI governance lead. So the COLP is responsible for the AI risk and impact assessment. The IT lead is just consulted. So they'll be consulted in terms of what mechanism is in place, what's the actual process when there has been a near miss or there has been an incident. Okay, and so is the fee earner. So the fee earner, it would be more than likely be instructed to report back any incidences that may have been taken place or anything like that. There must be a process in terms of, I don't know, that could be a variety of things, whether it's a form or some sort of portal or anything like that, but a mechanism has to be in place wherein when there is an incident or a near miss, the fee earner who has been consulted on the process uses that mechanism to report it, which then goes back to the chain, which would be the COLP, who's responsible for the risk and impact assessment, and report that back to who's accountable for it, which is the AI governance lead. All right. The next task is the AI output review. Now, when it comes to the output from the AI models, the AI governance lead is informed. So they're informed in terms of the quality of the outputs coming from the AI models used by the fee earners. All right. So the AI governance lead is only informed. However, the COLP is accountable for it. All right. So them being accountable, they need to ensure that they have the necessary systems in place to ensure that the fee earners' outputs are being reviewed by a qualified solicitor or whoever. It's being reviewed before put together to be submitted to court. Okay. So the COLP is accountable for the AI output review. The IT lead, just like the AI governance lead, is only informed. Okay. Is only informed. Now, when it comes to the responsibility, the fee earner is responsible for checking AI outputs, right? So anything they use AI to generate, It is their responsibility to ensure that they are using their actual knowledge and experience to check the output. And I say knowledge and experience because if we come back down to this court case where 18 fake citations was submitted to court, it does actually, there is a line on here where it says, here we are. So you've got AI. While it's a promising tool, it is not a replacement for human responsibility and oversight. A lawyer is answerable for their research, arguments, and representations under their core duties to the court and to their clients. These duties continue to hold true when utilizing AI. This case demonstrates that it is more important than ever to understand the capabilities and limitations of a new technology to ensure that it contributes a genuine aids, not sources of misinformation. Okay, this is what the court is actually stating to the actual law firm that basically messed up by using AI and not checking it. Okay, so output review is the fee earner's responsibility, and it's the COLP is accountable for the output. Okay, and then the final task is a quarterly AI performance report. Now, this is where it closes the loop in terms of what's going on the ground, being the work produced by the fee earners using AI, and that information being fed back to top management. So the AI governance lead is responsible for this report. The COLP is only consulted along with the IT lead, who is also consulted. The fee earner who uses the tool is only informed. Okay, so there's no actual accountability for the quarterly AI performance report, but the AI governance lead is responsible to ensure that this quarterly report is actually done and the communication is fed back to top management. All right, now as promised, I said that each module, each section where we close the gap, there will be a template, and I have one here. So this is the template that you could just download and edit to obviously fit your law firm. I have just put in the core information that's needed for the relevant sections. Okay, so for example, you can see here for the AI governance role definitions, I have put in some roles, what they're accountable for, who they would report to, and then spaces for the actual names of the real members of staff that you would actually put there, give them the responsibility. And then you have the actual responsible, accountable, consulted, informed task matrix. All right, and then it's broken down into the different clauses. All right, and then so here you've got the activities, and based on the roles, who's accountable, who's responsible, who is just consulted or informed. And it goes down from the strategy and the policy governance. You've got the system procurement and deployment, and then you've got the risk impact assessment and incident management. Also, you've got the operation, supervision, and training. And the other task here, we have the client and third party governance. All right. Finally, to close the loop, information with regards to the quarterly AI performance review and its schedule. Actually, let me just move this across here, make that a little bit more neat with the formatting. Okay, so this will be available to download. Just clicking the link below and feel free to edit. I've also included some questions that you could go and test yourself. So again, this link to what I'm being showing you here is also in the description. So you can just click on the link and go through the module, rewatch the video, this video, and test yourself with any of these questions. I'm not going to do it here because it's got to obviously show you the answers within the actual video. And finally, I've put in here, as you're working through closing the gap yourself, so you're actually working on your responsible, accountable, consulted, and informed controlled document. And then finally, I've just put in a little completion checklist to know that you've obviously gone through all the different sections within this module and haven't missed anything. All right, so we've done module 2. Module 2 closed the gap 1, and gap 1 was the AI policy. We've now closed gap 2, and gap 2 is the RACI control document. Now in module 4, we are going to address gap 3. And gap 3 is building the AI system register. All right, so this is ensuring every model, every API, every prompt that is being used is documented, version controlled, and owned. All right, so until then, I'll see you in module 4.